everyone. I would like to introduce you to the Knowledge Sharing Center. And today we're going to talk about HBCU perspective doing federal government contracts. Right now we have Dr. Chance Glenn and we have Dr. Paul Ruffin. So Dr. Chance Glenn is the Dean of Engineer here at Alabama A&M University, but he is also the president of Alabama A&M Rise Foundation. So welcome, Dr. Glenn.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you. And Dr. Paul Ruffin is a man that, you can't explain words for him. He's what you call the chief scientist. And he has also worked in the federal government sector. So he has a lot to tell you, and you will get a lot out of what he says. So right now I want to talk about what you guys feel about HBCUs being in the government federal perspective.
Well, let me start off by saying this, that there's enormous opportunity, there's resources that are available in the federal government sector. What universities are used to doing, however, is going strictly after the grant side.
Right.
And there's a lot more revenue to be generated on the contract side. The problem is that it's a difficult task, and universities usually don't develop the resources that they need and the infrastructure that they need to go after it. So we've decided we wanted to take on that challenge.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So you said that the universities have not developed the infrastructure.
Right.
So is the Rise Foundation the infrastructure
Yes.
for Alabama A&M? So explain a little bit about that and
Okay.
why it was created.
Well, it was a specific thing that we looked at trying to do. First of all, it's very important that you separate out the operation, the finances, particularly from the university. So in that regard, a separate 501c3 was erected. So the AAMU Rise Foundation, which Rise is Research, Innovation, Science, and Engineering Foundation, was established as a separate entity, separate cage code, DUNS number, all of that stuff. But it is wholly owned subsidiary of Alabama A&M.
Right.
So that way, when it comes down, and then the biggest thing is auditing issues, financial issues, it's separate from the university.
Right.
And also all the regulations that you have to follow through. You can do that cleanly and tightly through a separate entity as opposed to mixing it up together with the university, which many universities have tried to do and failed.
Absolutely. So now I'm going to get to Dr. Ruffin, because you've been in the government industry and you understand the process and you understand what Dr. Glenn is saying about having a separate 501c3 foundation. So tell me a little bit about your background in the federal government market and how the Rise Foundation is probably one of the models that people should follow.
Well, like you said, I worked in the government for over 30 years, and the thing that the government is lacking sometimes is the innovation. And so we go to the universities to find the innovation in the scientists, in the professors, in the different areas, different disciplines, physics, engineering, and those areas. So we've always needed to find that innovation in universities. While I was there, we did that with other universities, more so not the HBCUs.
Right, correct.
But see, the good thing, the unique thing about Alabama A&M is that it's in a city, where we have a 4-star general, AMC, we got a 3-star general, SMDC, we got 2-star generals with the POs, aviation and missiles, and PO missiles and space. And so we're the best, we're right there in the center of just technology.
Right.
And so with the scientists throughout the university that we can tap into with that innovation, we need those type of new innovations at this point, for sustainability. That's what we need.
Now, one of the reasons, we brought Dr. Ruffin in, he, and of course he won't say himself, but he has a brilliant physics mind.
Absolutely.
Physics background.
That's why he's sitting at the table now.
Right. So, but the other thing is that he's that experience that he has within the federal government. So it was an ideal, addition to the team. to bring somebody who understands the science, can oversee the technical areas that we're trying to develop and what we have. Because see, the thing is, you got this big university with all of these different people, disciplines and expertise and everything, and you're trying to marshal that together and focus them at different opportunities.
Right.
Which, you know, are specific within the government and whatever. So somebody who understands on the government side, and then somebody understands what we have, our technical assets, and then being able to focus them down into some specific opportunities. Yeah. That's the job.
Right. Now I want to get into the difficulties that probably you faced as a government employee when dealing with I would just say an HBCU.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if there were some if you know if something could have been overcome, things like that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I don't think there was any difference in between HBCUs versus other universities. But what I did notice is that any university that did not have something like RISE, it was hard to deal with, get to the professors. Now, I want to be honest with you here. Professors, you know, they're graded on how many papers they write and how many things like that. In the government, we want a product.
Right.
You know, we got to have a contract.
Right.
You know, what's the end product?
Right. Look at the camera and tell them that.
But yes, in the government, we need a product. Right. And so we're on a schedule, and we need you to, we need the universities, just like the contractors, to recognize that we have a schedule of milestones, things you have to meet at a certain time, and when you don't do that, it hurts the government's money.
Absolutely.
You know, if we don't, that's the other thing. If we don't spend the money on time, the government will be
absolutely. So talk about the difference in the grants and the contracts, because I think you hit on something when you said that the government needs a product, they need it on time, and you will face consequences.
Right.
I don't think the universities understand it. So, Dr. Glenn, can you talk a little bit about the grant versus the contract?
That's what I want to jump in. And it's even worse than that, because first of all, just as you said, there are milestones, products, deliverables. That's not how grants work.
Right.
Grants are you get the money, you do the research, you write papers, you provide reports at the end. And sometimes that's not, as long as you, and usually grants have external evaluators who they'll determine whether you're doing the work that you're supposed to do. So the professors are not used to providing time and effort, you know, those kind of things in a way that a contract is. So that's a culture that's been created, and that autonomy and that that ability to determine your own destiny as a professor. That's one of the perks of being a professor.
Right.
So you're fighting that culture. Now, on the positive side, is that if you can make a contract effort look like a scientific, almost grant-like effort to, if you make it look like that to the professor, then it can almost be the same thing. So what we're trying to do with RISE is taking opportunities and create them in such a way that allows the faculty member to operate almost as if they were operating on a grant. But the heavy lifting then is done on the foundation side.
Okay, so me being a contracts person for over 20 years, that's difficult to try to form a contract to basically look like a grant. Okay, so the RISE Foundation, as I see it, because I've been working with you guys for many years, you have overcome that obstacle. You understand that there's timesheets involved, that when you have an effort, you have to record your time. That time then reverts to a charge number. That charge number reverts to what we call a project number. That project is to that contract. Therefore, the hours and the dollars are allocated to that contract. So that's something that I don't think universities in general are used to, but this is why we now have the Knowledge Sharing Center. We are trying to create that culture, because This year in 2017 for DOD, there's $583 billion. Okay, so and where the sweet spot for the universities is NASA. So although Dr. Ruffin worked at MRDEC and there's opportunities, NASA has an agency goal of 1%. And what's their budget for this year? $19 billion. So that equates to what?
190
million dollars.
Yes.
So what we're trying to educate everyone on here is that contracts is the new grant. Okay? We're not saying go away, grants go away, but we're trying to talk about giving you an opportunity to open up your revenue, open up where there's dollars, where people really want you, right, Dr.
Right,
Ruffin?
that's right.
So you
That's
seek out universities.
Exactly.
That's just like you said. You seek
Yes.
out universities because they have that brilliant
Right,
mind. They
right.
have, and also you have internships,
That's right.
things like that.
That's
And
right.
I know one of the things that we're doing with RISE, the big perk is they will have a facility security clearance. I'm not sure
That's
many
important.
universities
That's important.
have that. That's very
Right,
important.
right.
You can get your students to actually graduate with a security clearance. So
Right.
when the requirement comes out and the student has to have a clearance, if you were here,
Right.
you have that. So
And it's better to get a clearance when you're young.
when you're young than when you're old, because there's a lot of things that
and done so
happen.
much stuff.
Yeah, you get-
Absolutely,
as
absolutely.
I'm finding it.
So, so I wanted to take this time to give you guys a platform and an opportunity to talk about it. But I also want you to understand that you have to be educated on government contracts. It's not something that you can just fall into. I graduated from Alabama A&M, so I am an alumni, but I graduated in this field. I graduated on a Friday, and I worked for the government on Monday. So I've been doing this forever. And it can be difficult, but it also can be seamless if you have experts
Yes.
on your team
Yes.
and you understand the requirements. Am I
That's
really?
right.
Okay. So is there anything else you would like to?
Well, I think that when you're talking about faculty members, one of the things you can start to educate faculty members on how to do this, but there's a compelling reason, and the compelling reason for them is very simple:
Mm-hmm.
it's money.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
If you can
right.
put money into
Extra money.
the hands of the faculty members and make it look like a research project for them, and it pays, time release and summer salaries. These are all the things that faculty members understand. Course release time and summer salaries and things like that. These are the kind of things that will attract them to do this kind of work.
Right.
It will, and so this is how we're the carrot, and then there's the education part to say, yes, you got to do timesheets, yes, you got to report, you got to keep this in that line, and you can't switch the money around willy nilly, and we're seeing some success with that
Right.
in educating that. Now, the last thing I want to say was that yes, we're doing this for Alabama A&M, but we are beginning to reach out to our other sister HBCUs and to draw them in under the same umbrella to either bring their expertise into contracts that we hold,
Right.
or to educate them to be able to go after contracts.
That's great. That's great. So one last thing, Dr. Ruffin, he hit on it about the sister institution. How important is teaming? How
Yes.
important?
And the government, as a matter of fact, on a government contract, they'd like for you to have government part, industry, and academic.
Mhm.
And so the teaming is very important in government. Yeah, that's teaming is number one. If you have a contract and you want to win a contract in the government, if you show how you're teaming, that's the best thing you can do. You also mentioned something about internship.
Mhm.
So the other thing is that the universities will have students, great students, that will get a chance to work on contracts, and when they graduate, they can come and work for the government without having to be trained. They're already trained, so that's a good thing also.
We have several of those now that are operating on a number of contracts that we have students doing that now, and it's working out very well.
Right.
Working out very well.
Well, I want to thank you all for sitting down with me to talk to the subscribers about the Knowledge Sharing Center and the importance of doing federal government contracts with HBCUs, the importance of teaming, the importance of internships, but mainly the importance of getting extra money.
Yes.
So thank you for sitting
you.
down with me, and I hope you guys will subscribe and go through all the modules. You will learn a lot. Thank you.